Friends, and welcome to my channel Sequential Biology. We were talking about different phylum of animal kingdom. In the previous class, we have discussed about phylum Porifera and their classification from my handwritten notes. And in this video, we will discuss about phylum Cnidaria and its classification. Cnidaria is also another important lower non-corded group. Phylum Cnidaria have few common features like phylum Porifera. They are diploblastic like phylum Porifera, then they are diploblastic, and also they have a single cavity in their body and which is known as coelenteron. And for this reason, they are also called as coelenterata. But in case of phylum Porifera, we have seen that there are present a central cavity in their body, which was known as spongioshield. But in case of phylum Cnidaria, the central cavity is known as coelenteron or gastrovascular cavity. They shows blind sac body plan. What is blind sac body plan? Blind sac body plan means their digestive system have single opening which serve as both anus and mouth. And this type of body plan is called as blind sac body plan, and this is a characteristic features of this phylum. And also in their tentacle there are present many tentacles, and in this tentacle a special type of cell called the cnidoblast cell are present, and which helps to capture prey. And for this reason this phylum is also known as Cnidaria, because the cnidoblast cell or special stinging cell are present in their tentacle. And the hydra is a representative of this phylum. You can see the diagram of a hydra, and in this hydra their mouth or hypostome, the mouth of hydra is also called as hypostome, and this hypostome is surrounded by many tentacles, and in these tentacles there are present a special type of cell. So the special type of cell or the cnidoblast cell are present in tentacles. For going to discuss about phylum Cnidaria, you should have a clear concept about this structure of this cnidoblast cell, which is a characteristic of this phylum. This type of cnidocyte contains a stinging capsule called the nematocyst. So the cell is nematoblast, and this nematoblast capsule, nematoblast, this total structure is nematoblast or the cnidoblast cell. And in this nematoblast cell there are present a stinging capsule which is known as nematocyst. So nematocyst is a capsular structure. This is nematocyst. Nematocyst is a capsular structure, and this capsule contains a thread, and this thread is coiled, right? So the thread is present inside the nematocyst. The cell is known as cnidocyte or the cnidoblast cell, and nematocyst is capsule which is present inside this cnidoblast cell. Then the nematocyst is part of this cnidoblast cell or cnidocyte. The nematocyst contains a coiled thread, and when trigger is stimulated by touch or by certain chemicals, and when this cnidoblast cell come in contact with certain chemicals or any food materials, then this coil thread will come out or the shoot out from the nematocyst, and then they paralyze the prey. Actually, this cnidoblast cell secrete a special kind of paralyzing agent which is known as hypnotoxin, and this hypnotoxin paralyze the prey, and they capture the prey with the help of this cnidoblast cell. Due to the presence of this cnidoblast cell, this phylum is also called as phylum Cnidaria. Then these are three most important characteristic features of this phylum. They are diploblastic, and they have a single gastrovascular cavity or the coelenteron, and they show blind sac body plan. That means their digestive system only contains a single opening which serve both as mouth and anus, and also there are present a special type of cell which is called as cnidoblast cell. Another important characteristic features of this phylum is alternation of generation, and in alternation of generation two form of animal can be found. One is polyp and another is medusa. And the polyp is asexual phase, and they reproduce by budding. Budding is a process of asexual reproduction, and the medusa produce gamete. So medusa is called as sexual phase. And in their life cycle, the polyp and medusa alternate, and so this is also called as alternation of generation. And this is a structure of a medusa. Medusa looks like this figure. So you can see the diagram of class Anthozoa. Class Anthozoa is very important because this class produce coral reef. Actually, this Anthozoa may be solitary or this may be colonial, and here you can see a solitary Anthozoan representative which is known as sea anemone. this is solitary, right? And also the polyp of this anthozoa which form a colony, and they form coral reef, and this star coral life as the colony as the polyp. So this class Anthozoa only contains polyp. No medusoid stage can be found, or the no sexual stage can be found in class Anthozoa. This is characteristic features of this class Anthozoa. Class Anthozoa is important because the colonial form of this class Anthozoa form coral reef, and which is also known as tropical rainforest of sea. Now we will discuss about different characteristic features of this interesting phylum. Now phylum Cnidaria, also called as coelenterata, because they have a single gastrovascular cavity or coelenteron, I have already told you, and they are aquatic. That means they are not terrestrial. They usually found in water body, and they mostly marine. Usually they are found in marine environment, but except a few like Hydra. Hydra is a freshwater Cnidaria, and their body is radially symmetrical. This is also an important features. Their body is radially symmetrical. In Echinodermata, also the radially symmetrical body found in adult, but their larva is bilateral symmetrical. But this, the representative of this phylum or the species of this phylum, is totally radially symmetrical. Hydra, transparent jellyfish, bright colored sea anemone, variety of the corals are members of this phylum, and they are predator. Usually they capture prey with the help of this special type of stinging cell or the cnidoblast cell. Almost 10,000 aquatic species originated about 680 million years ago. What are the phylum characters? Then they may be solitary or colonial. That means the individual may be present singly, or many individuals are found together, and this is called as the colony. And the sedentary or the free swimming, that means they can be attached with substratum, cannot move from one place to another. That is, they may be sedentary like the sponges, or they may be free swimming, can move from one place to another. They are diploblastic. This is an important characteristic features of this phylum, that is composed of two tissue layer, the outer epidermis or the ectoderm, and the inner gastrodermis or the endoderm. And many cell types are present in ectoderm and endoderm. Mesoglia in between ectoderm and endoderm has less cell number. And in phylum Porifera, we have seen a mesohyl layer in between epidermis and endodermis, but in case of Cnidaria, we can see mesoglia, which is also a gelatinous structure. This contain few cells. And level of organization, they lack organ. No organ or the organ system level of organization can be seen in this phylum. This is also a characteristic features of this phylum. Coelenteron or the single internal cavity, which is sac and lined by gastrodermis, are called the gastrovascular cavity or coelenteron. A single opening to this cavity function as both mouth and anus, and they show the blind sac body plan. Blind sac body plan means the animals in which digestive system have only a single opening, which serve as both mouth and anus, are dimorphic. They are dimorphic. That means the individuals are found in two different forms. Two types of individual can occur. Attached polyp, the polyp cannot move from one place to another, and free swimming medusa. Now the two form, they also show the polymorphism. We will also see the polymorphism, but here we will see the dimorphic individual. Actually, species may be found in two different forms. One is polyp and another is medusa. And the polyp is asexual form, and by asexually, by process of budding, they form the medusa, and the medusa produce gamete, and by fertilization, zygote, and from this zygote, the polyp are developed. The polyp is asexual phase or asexual form, and the medusa is sexual form. Since these two type of form are found in this phylum, and this is called as dimorphic. And apart from this, many different morphology can be found in single species, and they show the polymorphic behavior. Now the polyp is cylindrical and usually fixed, but may be solitary or colonial, and the polyp produce medusa asexually. And the solitary polyp, like the sea anemone, is a solitary polyp. The sea anemone present in sea water singly, but some form of class Anthozoa are colonial, and they form a great coral reef. And the medusa is umbrella-like and the free swimming and always solitary, and the medusa forms polyp sexually. Then the polyp may be solitary or colonial, but Medusa is always solitary. Always they present singly, and Medusa forms polyp sexually. Some cnidarian exist only as polyp or only as Medusa, and others have both polyp and Medusa in their life cycle. In case of class Anthozoa, only polyp form are present, but in many cnidaria, both polyp and Medusa form are present in their life cycle. Now we will discuss an important term which is known as metagenesis. Either or both forms, polyp or Medusa, may occur in a species, in a single species. If we see these two both form, that is polyp and Medusa, then this process is known as metagenesis. Those cnidarians which occur in both form are shows the alternation of generation. So class Anthozoa do not show alternation of generation because they have only one form, that is polyp. But many forms show alternation of generation. That means polyp and Medusa repeat alternately in their life cycle. Polyp and Medusa, polyp produce Medusa asexually and Medusa produce polyp sexually. Example, Obelia. But it is not true alternation of generation because it is difficult to distinguish between asexual and the sexual form, as the both individuals are diploid. In case of true alternation of generation, we know the alternation of generation can be found in plant, and in cases of the plant, the two generation can be found. One is sporophyte and another is gametophyte, and the gametophyte is any haploid structure in plant body is known as gametophyte, and sporophyte is always diploid. Then what is this alternation of generation? Alternation of generation means when individual shows haploid and the diploid stage alternately, then this is called as alternation of generation. But since the polyp and Medusa both are diploid, polyp is also diploid and the Medusa is also diploid, so this is not true alternation of generation, and this type of life cycle pattern is called as metagenesis, not true alternation of generation. And also we have seen that the individuals of this phylum may shows polymorphism, and when the two forms are present in a species, this is called as dimorphism. Only polyp or Medusa are present, then this is called as dimorphism. Trimorphism means three different morphology found in same species, like the Siphonophora. Siphonophora shows the trimorphic behavior, and the polymorphism means more than three different forms can be found in a single species, like Porpita. Then this is a diagram of polyp, and we will see the structure of a polyp. The polyp is cylindrical. You can see this is a cylindrical structure and adhered to substrate by the aboral end. They have the two end, the oral end and aboral end. The oral end bears a hypostome or their mouth, and these hypostome are covered by numerous tentacles. So the adhered to the substrate by the aboral end of their body and the end opposite to the mouth. Aboral end means the end opposite the mouth, and extend their tentacles and waiting for prey. And in this tentacle many cnidoblast cell are present, and in this cnidoblast cell the nematocysts are present, and this nematocyst contains a thread-like structure, and when come in contact with prey, this thread come out from this from this nematocyst, and this enters into the prey body and paralyze the prey, and then this tentacle take this prey, paralyzed prey, into their mouth or into their hypostome, and extend their tentacle and waiting for prey. And many polyp can move slowly by using their muscle on the aboral end, and they are asexual form. Then the polyp is asexual form. Polyp can reproduce by forming budding, and a small cnidaria can form from their base, and ultimately this will develop a Medusa, right? And here you can see the different layer of this polyp. Outer is epidermis and inner is endodermis, and there are present a single gastrovascular cavity or the coelenteron, and this is the gastrodermis or the lining of this single gastrovascular cavity, and this is mouth. The opening of this gastrovascular cavity is called as the mouth or the hypostome, and the mouth is surrounded by many tentacles. And next, the Medusa stage. Medusa stage is flattened and the mouth down. Their mouth present in downward position. But in case of polyp stage, the mouth is present in upward position. but here the mouth is present in downward position, and the bell shaped, this is a bell shaped structure. They have also epidermis, this is epidermis layer, this layer is epidermis, and this is gastrodermis, and in between this epidermis and the gastrodermis the mesoglia are present, and the few cells are present in this layer, and also tentacles are present. Tentacles are dangle from the oral surface and which points downward. Tentacles are also arranged in downward position, and this is sexual form. And cnidarians also show the polymorphic behavior. That means when they form a colony means many different individual actually live together, they are called as colony, and these different individual perform different function. Some perform feeding and they are known as feeding polyp, and the other polyp is specialized for reproduction and lack the tentacles. So this is an other polyp, and they do not have any tentacle. But the feeding polyp bear tentacle, but there are no tentacles are present in this polyp, and they produce medusa by asexual budding, and also the different forms can be found. Then this is actually called as polymorphism. And from this reproductive polyp means asexual phase, and from this reproductive polyp, and the reproductive polyp produce medusa by process of budding, and then this medusa are formed, and medusa bears the gonad, right? And this gonad form sperm and egg. This is and this medusa contains the male gonad or male gonad, and this medusa contains female gonad, and from this female gonad the egg are developed, and from this male gonad the sperm are developed. The egg and sperm united by the process of fertilization, this will form the zygote, and the zygote is always diploid, and then this zygote undergoes a series of development, and this will form a planula larva. Then the planula larva is characteristic features of this phylum. Planula larva eventually settles and develop into a new polyp, and then this is a mature polyp, and this mature polyp again develop a colony. By process of budding, they will produce different individual and which perform different function. That means they show the polymorphic behavior. The polyp is asexual and the medusa is sexual, releasing eggs and sperm, and these two stages are alternate, one producing the other. And remember, all the form are diploid. So the polyp form is also diploid and the medusa form is also diploid, and for this reason their life cycle pattern is called as metagenesis, not so their life cycle pattern is metagenesis, not true alternation of generation. If it is true alternation of generation, then haploid and the diploid structure will be alternated, but only sperm and egg are haploid, so they do not show true alternation of generation. Now we will see the classification of this phylum Cnidaria. Phylum Cnidaria divisible into three important class: the class Hydrozoa, class Kyphozoa, and class Anthozoa. And this class Anthozoa again subdivided into two subclass, Octocoralia and Hexacoralia. We will discuss only those subclasses which are important in examination point of view. First, we will see the characteristic features of this class Hydrozoa. Class Hydrozoa may be marine or freshwater, and the solitary or colonial. That means they may be present singly or many different individuals are present in a specific region and perform the specific function. Then this is called as colony. Only polyp or both asexual, only polyp. Then this Hydrozoa, in their life cycle only polyp form can be found, or both asexual polyp or sexual medusa are present, and the medusa with velum, and in their medusa the velum are present, and the mesoglia non-cellular and the gonad are ectodermal. Sex cells shed directly on the outside. The larvae are hydrula and the planula larva. This is very, very important. The larval form of class Hydrozoa are hydrula and the planula larva. The hydra is a freshwater polyp. Hydra looks like this, right? So this is a freshwater polyp, and the physalia is Portuguese man of war. They show the polymorphism, and the obelia is also called as sea fur. And the physalia, the upper end of the colony forms a large gas-filled float. This is called as pneumatophore. Physalia. This is a diagram of physalia, and this looks like the cap of Portuguese, and for this reason this physalia is also called as Portuguese man of war. Is a freshwater polyp, and the obelia shows polymorphism. The next class is Kyphozoa. The Kyphozoa, the members of this phylum are exclusively marine and they are solitary form. Medusa stage is dominant. Medusa stage is dominant, right? Polyp stage is reduced or absent. Polyp stage is reduced or absent and represented by scyphistoma stage. Then the polyp stage is represented by scyphistoma stage. So the polyp stage is reduced or absent. This is very, very important features of this class Scyphozoa. Velum absent in Medusa, and the mesoglia with fibers and the cells, and the gonad are gastrodermal and the sex cell released in digestive cavity. Then the Aurelia or the jellyfish is a representative of this class Scyphozoa. This is Aurelia. And you can see the medusoid stage of this Aurelia. The tentacles are present in the downward position and also their hypostome present in downward position. Then this is a classic example of this class Hydrozoa. And their larva is Ephyra larva. Example is Aurelia, the jellyfish, and the Pericopla and Pylema. And the last class is class Anthozoa. Remember, this class Anthozoa are exclusively marine and the solitary or colonial. This may be solitary or the colonial. And Medusa form is absent. This is very, very important features. In class Anthozoa, no Medusa form can be found. And this colonial polyp form coral reef. Colonial polyp form coral reef. What is this coral reef? Actually, this colonial polyp, and in this colonial polyp, suppose this is a polyp, and inside the tissue of this polyp, the zooxanthellate are present. Zooxanthellate is a type of algae, and this algae photosynthesize and give the carbohydrate and the colors of coral, and they produce many chemicals. This zooxanthellate produce many chemicals, and this give a beautiful color of the coral, and for this reason they give a beautiful color of this coral. And also this polyp absorb calcium from zooxanthellate and the seawater, and they develop a calcium deposit, and by accumulation of calcium deposit a coral reef are developed. And the Medusa form is absent and the velum absent, and all are polyps. All are polyps. Mesoglia is cellular and the gastrovascular cavity is subdivided by 8 or more septa. And the corals and the sea anemone is solitary. Remember it, sea anemone is solitary, and the coral are colonial. Coral are colonial. Different species of the coral can be found. So the colonial polyp of class Anthozoa are called as coral. This is very, very important. And this colonial form, and in this colonial form the zooxanthellate are present, and these give different color of this coral polyp. And this class again subdivided into two subclasses, the Octocoralia and Hexacoralia. What is Octocoralia? Octocoralia is exclusively colonial and the polyp with 8 tentacles. So when 8 tentacles are present, then they are called as Octocoralia. Example, Astraea or the star coral, Penatula and the Poterions or the sea pen, and the Renilla or the sea pansy. They are included under subclass Octocoralia, and this is sea pen. And next is Hexacoralia. Hexacoralia, example of this Hexacoralia is Adamsia or the sea anemone. Very, very important. Adamsia or the sea anemone. And usually they are solitary. And the tentacles unbranched and many but never 8. So they are called as Hexacoralia. And here you can see the oral disc and different type of tentacles. And this is also called as Metridium or the sea anemone or the Adamsia. And now we will see the few important features. Formation of the coral reef. Formation of the coral reef, the Millipora. Which group form the coral reef? The Millipora. Millipora form the stinging coral. And the skeleton has medicinal value. Tubipora. The skeleton of the Tubipora has medicinal value, and the ornamental value, and the Astraea also form the coral reef. The sail by wind Valella, and common and scientific name of few species of this phylum. The sail by wind called as the Valella. So Valella is a species which is called as sail by wind. And the Portuguese man of wire Physalia is called as Portuguese man of wire. Millipora is stinging coral, and the Metridium is called as sea anemone. This is solitary Anthozoa. And the L. Cyonium is called as dead's man finger coral. And the Tubipora is called as organ pipe coral. This organ pipe coral also have medicinal value. And the Madrepora called the stag horn coral, and the Fungia called the mushroom coral, and the Astraea called as the star coral. Then what is this coral? Again, I will tell you that what is this coral. This is an important features and understanding portion. Actually, when the many, suppose this is a polyp of class Anthozoa, and inside this polyp the zooxanthellate are present, and this zooxanthellate create a bright color of this polyp, and by process of asexual reproduction they form colony. Okay, so they will form colony. Different types of polyp are formed they will form the colony, and also this and also these colonial polyp capture the calcium and from the zooxanthellate and the seawater, and they deposit their skeleton. And so the deposited skeleton by this way, and for this reason usually they are present under the seawater, but due to the deposition of the skeleton they exposed from seawater, and they will form the coral reef. Different type of coral reef are present: the fringe reef, Great Barrier Reef, and also atoll. So different type of coral reef can be found, and we will discuss later about this coral reef, right? Then these are the characteristic features of this phylum Cnidaria, and hope you have understand the characteristic features and the classification of phylum Cnidaria. And in the next class we will discuss about phylum Ctenophora and their classification. This is a very small phylum Ctenophora, and their classification. So thank you, and that's it.